All right. We're fixing to watch something, but before we do, I want to tell my viewing audience towards what that I have recently done. I have recently went down to the Grand Rivers, Livingston County area, having an interview with various people, and I had no idea that the Pentecostal preacher that I talked to last year, just about the same time, had fallen ill. My prayers go out to him and his family and the rest of those in Kentucky that obviously have been bamboozled or deceived in believing the things that I've been trying to clear up here lately. As of just a while ago, I put out a message, and these messages goes to judges, they go to various politicians, they go to Secret Service, Homeland Security, they go to U.S. Marshals, some retired, some not, various law enforcement agencies throughout the country, is the way that I've been putting out my messages again and again and again. And this last time, which was like less than 30 minutes ago, this is November, I think the 21st. Thanksgiving is Thursday, year 2021. That if things is not rectified pertaining to how that this ministry has been bamboozled, hurt, damaged, intentionally, consciously they have done this, that things was only going to tragically get worse and worse. I want you to watch what has occurred just this weekend alone in the city of Chicago and up in San Francisco, where my niece lives, out from there, give or take about 2.5 hours up towards Lodi, California, and great country, Northern California. I just want you to watch as these extremist movements are continually getting bolder and bolder. And these occurrences that I'm talking about are fixing to show you right here. This just didn't happen just this weekend. These have been ongoing events again and again and again, give or take for the past year and a half, where people, it started out with just individuals, and then there was 2, then there was 3, then there was 4. Well, now it's like a whole gang. We'll go into a city and hit one of the most predominant stores that has the predominant highest retail to sell to the general public, and they'll go in and bust and break into these areas and walk out basically without no harm or hurt, or never having to be accounted for what that they have just done. So whenever I put out statements, warnings, advisories, they're not threats. They truly are advisories and warnings. Whenever I do this, I'm trying to help society and not hurt society. That bunch up there in Kentucky, from what I have understood, Northwest Kentucky, up around the Grand Rivers area, they obviously thought that I was out to harm them or hurt them in some form or fashion, which is very, very contrary to the teachings of Christ, because we're supposed to help people. We're supposed to go out of our way to be good Samaritans. We're supposed to feed the hungry and clothe the naked and try to deliver those who need deliverance from the bondages and the sins that they're under. That's our job as a Christian, as a good moral Christian. Those are the things that all Christians have been delivered from. And after we get delivered from those things, then we're supposed to reach out and try to find others and help them get delivered. And only thing we can do is provide the road or be a tool that God's actually using. It's actually the Holy Spirit that delivers an individual, including myself. Because the Bible is very, very clear that you cannot save yourself. The only way that one can be saved is that the Father hath to draw him. Well, how does the Father draw you? He draws you through the teachings of Christ and through the Holy Spirit. And that's how you become conformed or reformed. You go through a transformation period that is basically impossible to do on your own. A supernatural event happens in your life that can suddenly turn an individual around to the point that they no longer want to be a thief. They no longer want to be a bad person, but they want to be a good person. They want to be a good person. It takes a supernatural movement to do this. And I have been trying to explain this now for the past 30 some odd years. And like I said, I just got through coming back this weekend from up around Salem, Kentucky, speaking to an individual that I worked with there in Grand Rivers. That was the chief of the fire station out there at that time, whenever a catastrophe hit in 2009. And not only did I get kicked out of the town 4 days after doing humanitarian work during the process of a major ice storm, but then I go to the opposite side of the county, and the day after that, get run out of the county. So that made 2 occurrences that happened back to back pertaining to people not wanting help from this individual that's talking to you right now, which is Dennis James Juby Jackson, that lives at 291 Thompson Road, Sharon, Tennessee, zip code 38255. It's very obvious that those people are twisted. They're messed up in their minds. Whenever people try to hand you out something and give you something, you're not supposed to reject it, and you're for darn sure not supposed to turn it around and try to make that individual look like a monster, in which that's exactly what they done up there in Kentucky. But the sad thing about it is, not only was they guilty of doing it, but that my own Tennesseans right here in Tennessee have tried to do it. In the state of Oklahoma, whenever I was out there doing an investigation, they done the very same thing. So, one thing leads to another. It snowballed, and I still continue to put out more advisories, more warnings, and I hope to God that they are received and intercepted that way. But if not, I can't help it. You can't help. Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. It's the glass is either half full or half empty. And if people aren't willing to listen, and if people aren't willing to abide by God's rules, not mine, but God's rules, and if people aren't willing to listen to people such as myself towards warning people of these occurrences, well, then there's nothing else that I can do other than sit back, and every time an occurrence takes place, bring it to their attention. So if you don't mind, please watch. This is very, very sad. Right here, 3 days before Thanksgiving.
Teach.
Look at this. Here is what is going on in the country right now. Another brazen mob of thieves pull up in a bunch of cars and rob the place. Police say that it was 80 people broke into and stormed Nordstrom's outside of San Francisco. I mean, did you ever in your life think that you would see stuff like this? They just all pull up. There's the police pulling up after probably most of them have gone. It's just one of the shocking lootings that we saw over the course of this weekend, and a lot of them ended up getting away with it. Senior correspondent Claudia Cowan reporting live from Walnut Creek, California. Hi, Claudia.
Hi, Martha. That's right. Ahead of Black Friday, shoplifters are swarming high-end stores and making off with the most expensive merchandise they can carry. Happened at this Nordstrom here in Walnut Creek Saturday night. One restaurant manager saw it all.
I probably saw 50 to 80 people in like ski masks, crowbars, like a bunch of weapons. They were looting the Nordstrom right here, and there's all these, usually it's really busy, there's all these cars parked. I thought maybe they were going to start beating cars. It was crazy for a second. All the guests inside were getting concerned. It was a scary scene for a moment. There was a mob of people, the police were flying in. It was a scene out of the movie. It was insane.
3 people were caught, including a suspect who had a gun. The video is kind of grainy, but you probably can see some of the suspects getting into a line of getaway cars. All of this carefully planned and coordinated, and coming less than 24 hours after flash mobs hit a dozen stores in San Francisco, stealing $1 million worth of merchandise from Louis Vuitton, Bloomingdale's, and Burberry, among other high-end stores. But police were on scene fast. They made quick work of one of the getaway cars and arrested 8 suspects. San Francisco has been called the epicenter of organized retail crime, in part because of lax prosecutions, compounded by a proliferation of online third-party sellers who can remain anonymous. Federal legislation has been introduced to change that, but in the meantime, a number of stores have reduced their hours or closed altogether because of the rampant theft. Here in downtown Walnut Creek, police are beefing up patrols even as they caution more of these smash and grabs could happen. Again, all of them, Martha, tied to Black Friday and the online demand for good deals on luxury items. Back to you.
And you know, if those thieves was smart thieves, in which they're becoming more and more smarter, we can tell that by the interceptions of the computers, et cetera, towards how that they go in and hack and do other things. But I'm just saying that if they was really, really smart, they know that almost 100% of 100% that everybody now uses cell phones to communicate with. The old-fashioned landlines is just about completely out the door, other than businesses and security type systems that has to be secured that way. But if they was really smart, they would have a device to where they could basically go in and shut down those services. In other words, they've got stuff out there now, like whenever you go into a church or you go into a courthouse, they've got stuff out there now that they set up on Wi-Fi that will basically shut down all telephone services. It'll lock it down. You won't be able to make a telephone call. And the reason why is because they're wanting to secure that building that way. So during their conferences or during the time that they're preaching or having lectures, they don't want a lot of interference towards either incoming calls or people calling out. It's a preference thing towards what people does, but the point that I'm trying to make is this: the technology is out there that you can do this, and you don't have to be an Einstein to go into an area that's probably 200 foot by 200 foot and turn one of those machines on and basically disactivate everybody's cell phone. That way, whenever an event like this is occurring, people are trying to get out on their cell phones towards calling the police, and their phone lines won't go out because it's being jammed. You don't think that these crooks are smart like that towards being able to identify a breach or a weakness in these police officer systems? I mean, if they can hack a computer and go into a computer driving down the road and make your windshield wipers come on, turn your turn signals on, turn your radio on, basically take full control of your automobile. And I've been told that some of the older airplanes, they can do the same if they know what they're doing whenever it comes to these kids being smart. If they can do those things, don't you think that they can do other things too as well? We're living in a very, very high-tech artificial society right now. And we have been lured. I'm going to use the word lured. We have been lured, such as an entrapment deal, in having to deal with this type of technology. And because we've been lured and because we're using this technology, it leaves gaps for breaching to where whenever we had the old-fashioned standard landlines, they couldn't do stuff like this. And this is just one illustration that I've tried to make again and again and again towards the Trojan horse. People think that the computers and the computer system is the best thing that's ever hit the planet Earth. Well, that's only to a few, or to the majority of the few. There is a few of us, such as myself, that can look through all this technology and understand that this technology is actually an entrapment. It's a way to dominate society in an evil, harsh, demonic way if it's used inappropriately. You can take anything and turn it into something bad, even though its original intent was meant to be good. Kind of like a gun. A gun was originally designed, if I'm not mistaken, for hunting purposes or in a defense if an enemy attacked you. Well, now people uses those same devices in actually demonstrating evil rather than trying to prevent evil. It's all twisted around. Well, today in the high-tech society that we live in, let me just use a quick illustration real quick so maybe you can understand. This last week, I got a new upgrade on my system on DirecTV. You can see right there, I'm with DirecTV. And I wanted to move up to a Genie 2. And the reason why I wanted to move up to a Genie 2 is because their server is basically a wireless server. I've got a unit in the back of my pole barn over here, a Palomino trailer, that now I can take a Genie 2, hook it up to my TV. The programmer had to program it. The TV programmer had to program it while he was out here setting up all the equipment. And in doing so, now I can have HBO, I can watch the news, I can watch the weather, I can watch anything out there that I can in here electronically, digitally, because of the system is putting out these waves, basically a wireless system that can put out these waves to where my Genie 2 in the Palomino, I can watch whatever that I wanted to watch. The same thing is in here. We're living in such a high-tech society right now that people can pull up to somebody's house and log into their Wi-Fi. They can walk by you if you don't have proper stuff in your billfold or in your purse to prevent them from swiping you and stealing your identity. All they got to do is do these things. Those people are out there. That type of machinery or that type of equipment is out there that can cause havoc in people's lives. That's the world that we're in right now. And until we become smart enough to be able to outbeat the enemy, we're probably going to continue to have more and more problems like this. Just like I put out a message a while ago, that things is just going to get worse and worse and worse, pertaining to all these hellacious robberies and all this shooting and killing and drug overdoses and $30 trillion in debt and all the immigrants coming over, illegal immigrants coming over Mexico Grand, and our prison cells being full and leaving billions of dollars worth of equipment over in Afghanistan. And I can go on and on and on about how things is steadily crumbling. Now, they're going to project to you on TV that, the economy's kicked back up. All this, all that, all this, all that. That's what's going on now, right before Christmas. That's going to happen. I don't care if it's in the middle of a pandemic. But you wait until after Christmas. You wait until after the holidays. You watch stuff become dormant again. You watch people go on a layoff spree towards getting rid of the people that they've temporarily hired. We right now are in a broken system. And this is just a reflection point in what you're seeing right here towards these hoodlums that go in and doing what they're doing. You got smart crooks now instead of dumb ones.
Unbelievable. What a mess. Claudia, thank you very much. So stores were also targeted in Chicago. Our local Fox station getting video of damage to a GameStop on the south side. And police say that robbers raided Neiman Marcus on the Magnificent Mile, big area of famous shops there. grabbed merchandise. They took off in 3 cars. This all happened Friday night after a jury next door in Wisconsin found Kyle Rittenhouse not guilty on all the charges, but so far there has been no reported connection between these incidents.
And once more, these heathens is using stuff like this for an excuse. But in actuality, there is no excuse for doing stuff wrong. There is no excuse for burning down a building. There is no excuse towards going on a rampage just because you disagree with something that occurred. We're supposed to be a civilized society to the point that we're supposed to be able to sit down and reasonably talk about things before it ever reaches that level of hostility. Obviously, somebody dropped the ball here. Whenever you have these events that's continually happening on one level or the other, just as of yesterday evening late, watching the news, and all of a sudden they was having a parade, and may have been Saturday, but anyways, there was a parade going on, and somebody just got through robbing something or doing something illegal. He was getting away in his getaway car, turned down the wrong street, and there was a parade. Well, rather than him stop and back up and turn around because he knew that the police was on his case, he kept going, doing 80 miles an hour, and run through a bunch of them and killed 4 or 5 of them and injured about 35 or 40 people. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. That has reached a wild, wild west mentality.
Wow.
I'm going to let it go at that. Good luck to all of us. And as we say again and again and again, shalom. And we do wish for everyone to have a good, wonderful, magnificent, marvelous Thanksgiving. Thanks again, and shalom.